As promised this morning at 9 o'clock for the few of you who may have come over from one of my video game podcasts. I am Bill Cook. This is John Hemmingway, and we are talking with Ander. And can you pronounce your name correctly? Your last name correctly for me? I keep saying Etxanobe, but I'm sure that's not right.
It's a tough one. It's Etxanobe.
Etxanobe. Thank you. I appreciate that. And so we're going to talk about what it is to be Basque. What this really means, because there's a lot of confusion surrounding it. I knew minimal, only a little bit about it, but he wrote the book on it, The Basque, and this is the book that you can pick up on, I imagine, Amazon and pretty much everywhere, right, Ander? And so maybe, Ander, tell us a little maybe introduction about yourself and what it means to be Basque.
Sure. So yeah, I was actually born and raised in a suburb of Portland, Oregon, so in the great Pacific Northwest. My parents are both Basque. My father was born just outside of Bilbao, which is in the Biscaya region up north in Spain, pretty close to southwestern France. My mother was born in the U.S., but her parents were both from Spain, a combination of Pamplona and sort of the Bilbao area. Mm-hmm. And yeah, at the age of 10, my parents decided to move myself and my two sisters across the waters, across the puddle, as they say, and we went to spend some time in the Basque Country.
And you had a great time there?
Yeah, it was fantastic. I mean, you can imagine, especially in the sort of mid to late 90s, going from a country like the United States to a place like the Basque Country, where it's very hilly, a very mountainous region. Things like, DSL and fast speed internet hadn't quite made its way there. Just a lot of traditions, whether it was music, food, dance, just a lot of things that were brand new to me. And so, yeah, those 2 years were both eye-opening and difficult, but after those 2 years, at the age of 12, we moved back to the U.S., back to the Portland area. Eventually graduated high school, made my way to Washington, D.C., where I went to college at American University. And since then, it's been a long, kind of fruitful career in finance and accounting. And that's kind of it's a great question. You ask what it means to be Basque. For those of you who aren't really sure, it's basically an ethnic group of people who reside mostly in the northern region of Spain. And so whether you talk about cities like Pamplona, Bilbao, Vitoria, even places like San Sebastian, which is world famous for the beautiful coast there, those are all Basque cities, at least part of what we used to call the ancient Basque country. And we have our own language. It's called Euskera, which I think they say historians still have trouble kind of pinpointing it as to when it started, what its origins were. But it's kind of declared, I guess, the oldest language in all of Europe. It doesn't sound like Spanish, doesn't sound like English. It's just its own little thing. And so, yeah, we're a very prideful group of people, and yeah, that's the gist.
Wonderful, yeah. So this all predates the entire Europe as we know it. It predates France. It predates Spain, and the people lived mostly in a mountainous region, right? Like in a high elevation. And that
exactly.
And that developed some unique cultural characteristics. Can you maybe talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I mean, you can go back to like the mythical legends, right? Like even before kind of the onset of Christianity and sort of modern day Catholicism, the Basque people had their own legends, their own deities, their own people that they sort of worshipped, right? Like the gods of thunder and rain, and there's lots of stuff like that. But as far as the dancing, I mean, we have every sort of party you go to, or every kind of big time celebration in a town that you go to in the Basque Country, you'll have these sort of like dances where they have, they call them alpargatas, which are basically rope-soled shoes that they dance with. They attach these sort of like shin guards with bells to their legs, and they dance around in circles with swords and berets. And so it's a very distinct way of celebrating culture, very different from what you might see in other parts of Spain. And what most people don't know is in Spain alone. I think you have something like, and maybe John can correct me, I think you have like 17 autonomous communities. So it's not just the Basque people.
Yeah,
You have
there are quite a
Catalans.
few. I mean, people
Yeah.
think of Spain, Spanish, but basically Spanish is spoken probably for the most part in Andalusia and also in places like Madrid. But you go outside of it and they're speaking Catalan, they're speaking Basque, they're speaking... if you go up to La Coruña, okay, that's kind of a dialect of Portuguese.
Can you say that one more time for me? I didn't catch
La Coruña or
La Coruña.
A
Okay.
Coruña, as they say it there. But, you know, and so, I mean, you start to wonder, well, what is the unifying sort of, aspect of this country that people call Spain? And I think, well, I don't know, really. It's its
You know
own
what's
thing.
funny? What's funny about that is, and I used to think as a kid that this was just unique to the Basque Country, because the town I moved to at 10 years old was called Mañaria, and it's a town of like 400 or 500 people tops, and so it's a very small town. Yet somehow they've managed to squeeze in 8 different bars. So per capita.
Well,
Lots
that's
of
very
drinking.
Spanish, I would say. It's in a microcosm. It resembles Madrid, you know.
Do they all have
Yeah.
gazpacho and fresh squeezed Valencia oranges, even at like 2 in the morning?
Maybe I didn't stay up that late as a kid, but nowadays I'm sure.
I was
I'm just
amazed.
not around to see it.
When I lived in Madrid, I loved what I called the healthy bar. I would go to the bar, and I'd been drinking, and I'd reach a certain point where I realized I shouldn't be drinking anymore. And they have wonderful options. Gazpacho is amazing, especially after a night of having a few too many beers or cocktails. And the fresh squeezed orange juice is also great to give your body some nutrients back. I don't know. I loved it. I felt like I could. It was a much more healthy scene, in my opinion, to go out and to be very relaxed. And it felt like going out and on all of these festivities were a permanent part of life, not an end point where I feel like in America, in most bars that I would see when they close down are kind of depressing.
Ander, what do you
I agree.
do in the morning when you run with the bulls? What kind of sort of health food do you take?
On to the main attraction.
Do you go to Bar
that's right.
Choco by any chance?
Before the run? Ooh,
Yeah. No,
big.
afterwards. Now, obviously, you don't want to do it when you're drunk, okay, but afterwards, is there that drink that you get at that little side door there, with chocolate and...
I let loose, man. I let loose. My favorite go-to, and so, I mean, John's right. So the run only lasts like 2.5 minutes, maybe 3 minutes if there's a bull that gets sort of caught up during the course and they have to kind of bring it up to the bull ring. But other than that, at like 8:03 a.m., I'm at the bar drinking what's called a lagumba. And get this, it's tasty. It's a chocolate milk drink
Yeah.
filled with cognac and ice cubes.
Yeah.
And it's the most delightful drink, celebratory drink you could ever imagine.
And you see all these runners afterwards going there and getting their Kalumba,
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds
Yeah,
wonderful. I'm putting that on my bar.
It's like what I call the breakfast of champions in Pamplona,
Oh, yeah.
you know.
Well, the thing is because I like to run the bulls, and most people don't know this either, that in Pamplona, the running of the bulls happens 8 days straight. Most people think it's just 1 day a year, that's it. But because I run every day, I can't get too lit towards the evening of each night, right? Because I want to wake up fresh and collected. So I'll like hammer these lagumbas, maybe some rosado wine, some red wine, and whatever else, calimochos, early in the morning and into the early afternoon, and then I just sort of cut it off. But so yeah.
You got to follow your own rhythm, okay? I mean, Christina would tell me, that she would just take, what was it, gin tonics, okay, for most of the time, okay? And she could have just live on that, basically, You don't really even eat that much, okay? You're just
There's some
drinking.
people who just really hold their liquor. And I mean, year round, I'm not a guy I live here in Miami Beach, which is like the nightlife capital of the world, right? And I rarely go out. So it's like when I go to places like Spain and I know I'm drinking every day, I don't have that endurance, man. I got to start from zero. And so I got to watch it.
You have to get back into training, so to speak, That's what Christina says to me, we need to drink a little bit, to habituate our bodies to the excess alcohol. You know.
It's like tanning. You need a base.
Yeah.
You need a base
Yeah,
for tanning.
the base tan. Yeah, the base borracho,
Yeah, no.
borrachera or something. I don't know.
The cartoon solar opposites, when they greet each other, are people commonly saying, let's go partake in mild poison together.
Oh, it's the truth. It's the truth, and it'll bite you. I mean, I have plenty of friends who love to run with the bulls, and they'll just do it up a little too intense the night before the run, and they have to skip the run. So it
Oh,
gets
it's
you.
smart. I'm glad they did that. I'm glad that was the end point of that story, because it's as thrilling
Well, I mean, the
as running
cops
with the
go
bulls
through
is.
and they pick out anyone who's, they got fuera, boom. They just really just pick you up and throw you out. That's it.
Oh yeah, I mean, and you see some pretty egregious forms of this stuff. Like, I've been in there where guys just minutes before the run, stumbling over the barriers, right? Just shirt covered in wine and sangria. I'm gonna run with the bulls today.
Yeah.
The cops are like, "You're out, man." They're lucky they don't get fined.
Yeah, Ander, tell us about these bulls. What kind of, are they nice? Are they friendly? I mean,
It's
friendly
it's
bulls.
just like the Disney story. What was that movie that came out? The cartoon movie, Ferdinand or something.
Ferdinand the Bull. Yeah, they're all like Ferdinand the Bull. So when
They're
you're
cuddly.
running with the bulls, do you pet them?
All right, let's drop the bull.
Yeah.
I mean,
What are these
to be
bulls
honest,
like? While you're dancing among the horns, as they say.
Dancing among that's my thing. I love to dance on the horns when it's possible. No, these bulls are the most ferocious animals in the world. I mean, for people who are on the kilos or pound systems, I mean, a bull can weigh as much as 600 kilos on average, like the ones that run in Pamplona, which might translate to like 1,200, maybe even up to 1,300 pounds.
I thought
It's a lot of weight.
The Miura is like 700 or something like that. No?
It's crazy. Maybe you mean kilos?
Yeah, kilos. Yeah.
Yeah, these things are huge, and the Miuras especially. So what happens
Just
is
their
during
horns
the
are
8
like
days
this,
of bull
literally.
running, yeah, it's super long. During the 8 days of bull running, you have a different ranch that runs on every day, and each ranch has like different characteristics. And for example, the Miuras, they're known for being very long-bodied, very wide-horned, very fast, very brave.
How fast?
And
How
so-
fast do these guys run?
Oh gosh, these guys reach the bull ring in maybe just over 2 minutes.
It's
And
900
so-
meters. Yeah.
900 meters. It's a half-mile course. So think about it, times two. They can easily run a 4-minute mile. And a lot of the course, a good section of it, is steadily uphill.
Yeah.
Especially the start of it, where it's just, they call it the Cuesta, the hill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're blazingly fast. Blazingly fast.
Yeah, you
Dangerous.
can't follow them for the whole thing.
Yeah.
So what do? You choose
They're much
some
faster
special
than
spot?
They're much faster than any person, right? Like, you have to do something other than just run.
100%.
You cannot just outrun this thing, right? Like, you have to do something other than just haul butt in a straight line.
Do you start at that place they
Yeah.
call the curve or something? Is that where you usually
So
go?
that's where I like to end up. Yeah, that's my spot, man. I love the curve.
Do you
so
just stand there, like waiting for Ferdinand to show up?
what I like to do, and everyone has their different thing, right? Like, so there are hundreds, if not thousands, of people who run every day. And you're talking about narrow streets, narrow cobblestone streets, where there are a few exits along the road, and it's 850, 900 meters. And so everyone's bunched up and basically trapped in this little course. And so what I like to do is I'll start at a place we call Town Hall, which is maybe like a 10-second jog away from the curve, or as they call it, Dead Man's Corner, where it's just this like sudden 90-degree angle shift up another street. And I'll start at Town Hall, and I'll start to kind of see the herd moving in my direction, just down on a hill called Santo Domingo. And as I kind of see them approach, as they're about maybe 30, 35 yards out from me, I'll start my jog towards the curve. That way, like I start to kind of build my rhythm. I can kind of start weeding myself in and out of the crowd. I can just kind of get a flavor for like just the overall intensity of the race, I guess as you might say.
Taking its temperature.
Yeah, just kind of taking its temperature, really. Yeah, and just trying to get a move on. And oftentimes too, if you stand around in one spot for too long, you can get plowed over by the runners coming your way. You can start too late. So there are a lot of things that can go wrong if you just don't start. I mean, my first run ever, this is I've only been running with the Bulls for about 6 years, even though my first Fiesta was back in 2004. So in 2017, my first day running, I was starting up at Town Hall. I was like, okay, I'm just going to kind of wait it out until the Bulls are like right here. Big mistake. Big mistake. I got plowed over by people who were just in sheer panic mode, punching, grabbing, they were shoving, and I just got tossed to the barrier. Yeah, didn't even run an inch. So that's when I learned you just got to start at some point. So, and what I do typically now, since I'm a little bit more experienced, I like, as John might say, is like you have a sort of a rhythm or a flavor for the run. I like to interact with the bull at the curve. So as I'm rounding that corner, I'll typically have a newspaper that's rolled up in my hand. I'll kind of lean back, sort of like point it at the snout of the bull or at the horns of the bull, get it to sort of lock on, and just kind of make that turn of the curve as long as I can, for as far as I can. And sometimes that's 5 meters, sometimes that's 20 meters. There are good days and bad days, and a lot of it depends on the people who are around you, right? Because a lot of people, I find this typical of, not to be mean of Americans, but I find this typical of Americans who don't know much about the running of the bulls, is they might say, "Can you just run the whole course?"
Yeah.
Right? It's an athletic event, and so even if you could run as fast as the bull, which you can't. I mean, there are guys out there, women out there who can run 4-minute miles, sure, but number one, the course is slightly uphill, and number two, all these people are jam-packed in the street, and if the person in front of you isn't running fast enough, you have two options. You can stay, get trampled by the bull behind you, or just duck and exit to the left or to the right. And that's what ends up happening most of the time.
Yeah. So Usain Bolt doesn't run through the crowd when he does his 4-minute mile. They're not like, all right, now go through the stadium. This time we're going to go that direction.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And we're going to send some massive 1,200-pound animal after you. That's not the conditions that the Olympic runners are running in.
Carl Lewis could have done it, yeah.
Carl Lewis. Like a Bruce Jenner,
Bruce Jenner, yeah, before the operations. Yeah, maybe.
He was fast, man.
So do the bulls care about the color red, or is that a total myth?
They're colorblind.
Total myth.
Total myth.
Yep.
They can't even see it,
they're
right?
colorblind.
That's.
Yeah, the thing is
What attracts them is movement.
I don't know where that started.
I imagine, I don't know either. I have not a clue, but I would imagine it's theatrical. It sounds like one of those theatrical things that looks good for the crowd,
I agree. I think so. And I think also what kind of helps sort of prod that myth along too is everyone in Pamplona, not just in the running of the bulls, but at the fiesta, the festival at large, they're all dressed in red and white. So everyone's like, okay, I see the bulls, I see people dressed in red. Like there must be a connection there. They want the bulls to go after them.
It's.
I mean, yeah, which is just nonsense.
So, have you ever gotten got? Did a bull get you?
No gorings yet, knock on wood.
Yeah,
I mean,
where's some wood?
you talk to a lot of the old timers, and they'll tell you, if you do this thing long enough, if you run for as many years as they have, something will happen. Now, it's not to say that like I haven't fallen to the ground or haven't been like run over or kicked in the head by a bull or like things like that. That's happened. I mean, just this past summer, on the very first day of the run, I had made the curve, and I was basically blindsided to my right. I saw a group of runners on my right, and once those runners cleared out, I was surprised to see a bull right there. So, knocked me over with its horns. I went straight down to the cobbles, slammed my forehead against the stones.
Ouch.
And as I'm laying there stretched out, the entire freaking herd is just jumping right over me. And
Wow.
I'm just like, I'm
Because
feeling
that's
the
what they'll
hooks.
do.
Yeah.
They'll
If you
just,
hold still and don't get up, right?
they're following
Exactly.
the leaders, of the steers. They just want to get from point
Yeah.
A to point B.
God, that's got to feel like laying on the train tracks though, with a train going over you.
Oh, it's the worst, man. And the thing is like so your eyes are closed, you're just sort of hanging on for dear life, and you just feel the world around you just like, and it's like you're just hoping and praying, for me at least, I'm just hoping and praying that everything moves by me. If it steps on me, if it kicks me in the head a couple times,
Ouch.
if it rocks my temple, great. But if a bull, for some reason, gets tripped up, decides to sort of like kind of wander about where I am, I'm in a bad position. I'm defenseless. And that's when a lot of the gorings happen. They call it a situation with a lone bull.
Yeah, the
Lone bulls,
swelto.
very swelto. They're very territorial. They start to kind of hone in on anything that sort of inches toward them. And but luckily no gorings, and that's certainly that would be bad news.
Yeah, knocking on wood again for that. So we certainly hope the best for you. Really, Sounds really thrilling. John, you've run with the bulls.
Yeah, and every time I get down there, I'm saying to myself, John, you've got family. What the fuck are you doing here? But then, you see them coming, and the adrenaline is there, and it's I'm not like him. Okay, I've got legs of a 60-year-old now, and so it's not going to happen. Okay, so what I do is I get up there that large part, wide part of estafeta. Okay, wait, see them come along. Okay, I do a few steps and everything. All right, and then I tell the people who are behind me, the newbies, whatever, when they see the steers coming, I say, run, run, run. The steers don't want to do anything to you, okay? They're leading the other bull. They're not fighting bulls. But and then I just go have my first coffee at Barfitero, and then afterwards I got a choco for your drink, and then the party continues, and you've lived another day.
Just the way you're talking about it now, I get nostalgic about it because, it's a family thing. Again, something most people don't know about the running of the bulls or the fiesta. It's a family thing. They have celebrations and activities for children of all ages.
Oh, yeah.
They're all decked out in handkerchiefs, little babies,
They can be chased by little calves.
Well, yeah, they have something like that. Yeah. It's this little bull that they push around like this.
Real?
And there's another one, I think it's the Torre del Fuego or something like that. Yeah, it has firecrackers on it or something. The kids go crazy about it,
And then even during the run, you look up at the balconies and parents are there with their children who had just woken up. They're eating churros. They're dipping them in hot chocolate.
Yeah. Oh, God,
it's just...
And the churros that they make there in Pamplona are incredible. You're not going to find them anywhere else because, they're made with, being fried, and then they put brown sugar on it, I believe. Okay, and then you've got the chocolate there too, and forget about cholesterol. You're having a good time. You got that sugar buzz 24/7.
Not a care in the world.
No.
I will say this. Yeah,
I miss it.
Number one churros in the world, Pamplona, and I miss it. Yeah, I have to say a close second, churros at Disneyland.
True.
I don't know about Disney World.
No. This is blasphemous, people. Don't listen to them.
No, they are banging. No, I'm familiar. Yeah, Orlando's got them too. Yeah, no, they're spot on. And I think there's a secret to it because there's a spot near us that has them same style, but that they use they have their own water. So it has to do with the water and using real flour that is. And this is what I've been told. I'm not claiming expertise in this field, but if you want to try to make that kind of churro, I've heard that you got to get real flour, and a lot of people make them with just like this flour that's basically genetically modified and bleached and 50 million other things. And
that sounds healthy.
Yeah. What's that company that specializes in like seeds? Like it's publicly traded.
Monsanto.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I can never understand how these guys get people to
Roundup.
work for them.
There you go. Roundup in the morning.
I can't figure out how.
I'm giving you the warning. There you go.
How do you work in an office and go to work every day and you're like, oh yeah, we're just trying to screw up the world as actively as possible. Like what do your job?
You see, because if you go to Pamplona, really the only danger there are the bulls. Okay, and maybe alcohol poisoning if you go crazy. Okay. But the food is fantastic. Oh my God, the cuisine there, the wines. We're talking about Rioja, okay?
Tempranillo, right?
Well, Rioja, more like Rioja because it's closer to Pamplona and everything. And it's just, oh God, it makes me, oh God, I miss it. Yeah, I haven't been there. I didn't get to go last year because Christina was waiting for her green card and everything, and that was the 100th anniversary of Ernest being there. However, though, the comune, oh no, not the comune, what are they called? The ayuntamiento, City Hall. Mm-hmm. They only called me up at the last minute when they realized, oh my God, we haven't invited him, And I said, well,
they called you at the last minute?
Basically,
Wow. So for those who haven't been yet, lodging, airfare, all that stuff has to get booked like a year in advance.
They forgot about it. Totally.
Like $10,000.
And then I get this, this letter from them like, Mr. Hemmingway, would you like to come, seeing as how it is the 100th anniversary of the first time your grandfather was there and everything. And I'm like, well, yeah, I was hoping that maybe someone would contact me, and I've already made plans and everything. I've got my own tickets. Okay, you don't need. We can buy your ticket. I said, it's bought already. And
Wow.
in the end, I didn't go because my wife couldn't go, and it was just sort of crazy. This year, however, God damn it, I'm going. Okay, you can cross
Better
that
get your
out
ass
if you want
there.
to.
Sorry, can we curse in the podcast?
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
You can curse.
It's a Floridian podcast.
Yeah,
We can
Floridian.
do whatever we want. You can smoke weed, you can drink liquor, you can curse, you
There
can do
you go.
anything you
There you
like.
can go.
I like it. All right, I'm at home.
Yeah.
Well, listen, before we get off the wine topic real quick. So, yes, like the La Rioja region, I mean, it's world famous for its wine, particularly red wine.
Oh my God.
And what's neat is I have a newfound appreciation for it. This last summer, right before I ran with the bulls, I decided to do the 500 trek or pilgrimage from France all the way to Santiago de Compostela.
And so every day, he was drinking
yeah.
the good wine.
Wow.
There's a section of this pilgrimage on the way to Santiago that passes through La Rioja, and you're just surrounded by countless vineyards. for as
It's
long
true.
as
It's
you
true.
can see.
Beautiful country, rolling
So what
hills.
wines are
everything.
you talking about? We talked about Rioja. What else is it? What would you call a Basque wine?
A Basque wine. Basque are really famous for chacolin. It's like a white wine, like a variation of white wine. Super famous there. Served like chilled, maybe for like a midday meal, like an early lunch.
On a hot day in July, and it can
Yes.
get effing hot there at times. Oh, they called it
That's-
Mordor, okay, Pamplona, because you never know how the weather is going to be. It's like Sauron is looking at us.
Yes. It rains a lot up north. It
Is
rains
it
a lot.
is it sweet or a dry white wine?
I think it depends. I'm not the biggest wine aficionado, but maybe on the drier side. I might be wrong.
They want to try some.
But it's super famous. I mean, you can obviously go to any sort of store and buy it on the shelf there. But lots of people
What's
like
the
to
name of
brew
that
it
wine?
around.
That white wine in particular again?
Sorry, I just said brew wine. Can you brew wine? You make wine. You brew it.
You ferment it.
Yeah, you ferment
There
it.
you go.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
But what was the name of that Basque white wine that you were talking
It's
about?
called chacolin.
Oh, Chacolin. Okay.
Yep.
And maybe we should try at that store that we went to that has that exceptional
That'd be
array
Riverside
of-
Liquors. They should
yeah,
advertise with us since we're going to keep mentioning them.
Chacolin. Okay.
Yeah, Riverside Liquors probably. They either have it or can get it.
Did you hear
that's
that,
for sure.
guys? Okay.
Yeah.
We're coming to
There
get
is
you.
another
Yeah.
store. Here
Eventually.
in Florida, there is another store that I go to for all my wine needs and liquor needs. Can I mention the name?
Yeah, feel free. Yeah.
Total Wine.
Oh,
You guys
yeah.
have that in Orlando?
Yeah, we
Okay.
have that. Yeah, we have that.
They have Basque.
They're
Chacolin.
huge. They're huge. They're massive, that place. In fact, tell us a bit about your podcast as well. John told me that you also have a podcast. Tell us a little bit about that.
It's very niche, all right, but it's called Mozos, and the word mozo is basically like the Spanish term for like a young runner of the
Yeah.
bulls. So I call it Mozos Podcast. Just launched, just out of the gate. I've done a couple of episodes, and it's in the Spanish language. I mean, we might from time to time have someone who speaks English, but for the most part, targeted towards the Spanish audience.
Oh, wow.
And
And it-
Mozos is
yeah.
one of those traditional Basque languages, right, that predates Spanish itself. Is that correct?
Oh, sorry. It's more just like a slang kind of term, mozo. It's
Okay.
technically of the Spanish language,
Okay.
but it's only a term you'd really hear in Spain.
yeah.
And it's just like if you want to like describe a runner of the bulls, you're like, oh, John, he runs with the bulls. He's a mozo.
Gotcha.
A mozio.
Yeah,
okay.
right. I wish.
Not to be confused with a bozo, which
I don't know,
would be what I would be if I tried to run with the bulls.
When I first started doing that, okay, I was going out with Graham, and every day we'd all get out there and everything, and it was a lark, you know what I mean? I had no idea of what I was actually participating in. But then as I started to do more and more of these things, you start thinking, this is serious, John. You could get totally fucked up out here, And
That's the truth.
and then when Bill got gored that one time.
Not me, some other Bill.
Yeah. No, Bill Hillman. Okay. And Michael, my son, was taking photographs, and he saw the whole thing, and basically he was translating for Bill because Bill didn't know too much Spanish then, and they said, no, don't worry, they didn't hit an artery, it's only flesh, and he like, because he thought he was going to bleed out. This is what happens to people there. I mean, it's serious.
I met Bill Hillman in the hospital.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, it was just after scoring in 2017.
Oh my
I was
God!
with a couple of buddies of mine, and they were like, "We're going to go visit Bill in the hospital." And so I think it became like a thing. It's like the American community is so small in Pamplona, especially within the running community, that if something does happen or someone is in the hospital, we're quick to go pay them a few visits, make sure that they have all their needs taken care of, and because they're stuck in the hospital, they might have like a language barrier, and they're away from family, away from friends, and I think the least you can do is just kind of be there for them. So, yeah, I met Bill in the hospital, and IVs connected up to his arm. He had his famous little cap on, and he's sitting there shirtless, just tattooed chest, just big smile on his face as everything's pumping through his body. And
because I know that
Wow.
perhaps when
That's
he
got to
was
be a nutty experience being in a foreign hospital.
yeah. What's strange is that I think when Bill was gored, they were still giving out bills, so to speak. That is how much it costs and all that. But apparently they've changed that, and now the town hall basically pays for all that sort of stuff.
What's
I had
this? You
heard-
get free medical care?
Oh yeah, I mean, what are they
Even
gonna do?
Americans? Wow. I'm surprised they don't throw you out. They're
Because
like,
most of the injuries are not gorings, but are from people who are knocked down by other people on the pavé, and then they get broken legs, or they get maybe trampled by a bull, that sort of thing.
well, that just proves that karma is never instantaneous. Because we have such a messed up medical system here.
It's so different, man. What I have heard helps, I think, from Pamplona's perspective is I hear they take out an insurance policy, like a gigantic insurance policy every year.
Yeah.
And I think, it's probably a controversial topic. I'm not sure if the town hall's ever come out and said, like, we will reimburse or cover all medical expenses related to incidents with the bulls, but it seems like they kind of do.
Yeah.
Right? So I think most of that's covered under the insurance policy, but maybe there's like a catch there. They get a lower premium if they don't officially say they cover people. But because some people get in there not knowing what the hell they're doing. Some people run with the bulls, especially on the foreigner side, who should have nothing to do with that. Mm-hmm. They get in there, they don't know which way the bulls are coming from. They haven't trained for it. They haven't even watched YouTube videos on it. All this stuff is so readily available. And the problem with it, not to knock anyone who goes to Pamplona or Spain on with a travel agency or something like that, but a lot of it comes down to like these bucket list things. It's like, oh, I just want to run with the bulls to say that I did it and I'm tough and this and that. Listen, man, like there are people who've been doing this for 30, 40 years, running every year for 30 or 40 years.
It's amazing, really.
It's their passion. It's everything they live for. It's tied in with religion because the whole festival in Pamplona, basically what it revolves around is the patron saint, Saint Fermin. And so when people get in there and they just think it's a joke, they're just messing around, they get hurt. And it reflects bad on the event too, because they go back home and they go interview with the Los Angeles Times or Chicago, whatever, Miami Herald's the world. And they say, oh, like this is a dangerous event. You should never do it. I don't know what I was thinking. And it's like, yeah, maybe you shouldn't have been there in the first place, but like, don't knock everyone else's passion to want to explore that tradition.
Well said.
Yeah.
I like that.
I think Spain is an amazing place because there are encierros all over the country, in the summertime, and it's really one of the last places I think that you can find, unless you want to go to the Middle East right now, where you can risk something, even risk your life, basically to experience the ephemerality of living, and the Spanish do that. They don't say, oh, you've got to wear a helmet or you've got to be a certain age. Well, no, a certain age, yes, they want you to be 18, but everything else, is up to chance. If you make it and it's a good run, good for you. If you don't, well,
it's kind of like the Wild West, right? Like back in like the 1800s, right? When everyone was looking for gold, they're like, take your wagon, go west to California. Now you might die, but like no one's stopping you. It's kind of like this.
Yeah.
You might find gold.
Yeah.
You might find gold. You might find the end of your rope. We'll see.
So I don't know. Yeah, but I would just encourage anyone who wants to do it for the first time to just do some research, watch some videos, ask questions.
Yeah, I think that would make it more fun. It feels to me like it would be much more enjoyable, meaningful, and I can translate in my world. All that translates to fun. I like things that have context and meaning, and I would hope that anybody would want that if they're going to have that experience. You can risk your life going out on a Saturday night at the wrong bar.
Yeah.
If you want to run with the bulls, I mean, take it as an opportunity to really learn something about a people and their culture.
It's different, and I mean, I try to explain what the whole fiesta is like to people, but in the end, I always say you just can't understand it unless you're there.
Exactly.
And then when you live it, okay, then it becomes yours, and you're sort of like an expert at that point, or at least compared to your friends back at home.
What's so neat about your grandfather Ernest Hemingway's novel, The Sun Also Rises, was that it wasn't just about the bulls, right? Like it wasn't just about the bullfight and drinking. It was about exploring other nearby villages, going fishing in the hills and the rivers of Navarra. And there's just so much there to it, right? To be enchanted with.
Mm-hmm.
So if you haven't read that's definitely like a precursor to anyone who wants to kind of go explore Pamplona or even run with the bulls, is pick up a copy of Sun Also
Well,
Rises.
half the book is just him going to all the bars in Paris.
Yeah.
And then he's like, and then at noon, the town exploded. Okay.
It explodes.
Yeah.
He's going after Lady Brett. He's trying to win her affection, and
Sure.
there's a little love story. It's good, but yeah.
Wow. So, John, do you have any other questions on this? I have another subject to broach. We can come back, but I didn't want to take us off the main. I think this is the premier topic for most people.
Well, I mean,
think it's the thing.
I think I should ask your marital status. Are you still
A single guy.
Married to the bulls.
okay? You hear that, ladies?
Married to the bulls.
Okay.
It's hard to find a woman who.
You haven't seen him
makes it.
though. Okay, I mean,
Yeah.
there are times when he's out there in Miami Beach and he's just basically tanning and getting ripped and everything for the bulls because the bulls appreciate that.
That's one of the questions I actually get a lot is like, and just like anyone else who runs with bulls, it's like, what is your preparation? Do you go training every day? Like, do you do weightlifting? Do you run? And the truth is, like, I do a little bit of everything. I wouldn't say like you need to be able to run a marathon to run with the bulls. It's such a short duration event.
Kind of a
You're
sprint.
better off like, do some sprinting uphill. Make sure you can run a mile in I don't know, whatever, 7 to 8 minutes, whatever you want to call it. Like, just make sure you're cardiovascularly healthy. A little weightlifting doesn't do you wrong, and on the flip side either, because there's a lot of pushing and shoving in the run. You want to be able to maintain your position and kind of fend off the people who want to get in your way or take your lane. So having a little weightlifting mixed in with some cardio is very good. Eating the right food. I mean, that's, to be quite honest, like, it's funny, but that's the only reason I stay in shape is for the running of bulls.
Wow.
If I didn't have that, I would just say whatever. I would just have this huge beer belly. I'd sit on the beach every afternoon. I wouldn't give a, what. But yeah, I'm out there training every day out here in Miami Beach. There's a boardwalk that goes up and down, and John's super familiar with Miami. I'm not sure. Have you spent time in Miami Beach, Bill?
I have a little bit,
Okay.
not a lot, but a little
Yeah,
bit.
so
I'm in
there's plenty of
Jacksonville,
stuff.
so so it's not too far removed.
They've
from
got a lot of sort of
when I was
places, where you can work out and lift weights and everything. I've noticed
right on the
too.
beach. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, so in LA, Muscle Beach is super famous for Arnold Schwarzenegger back in the 70s and 80s. He'd go out there with all his buddies and weightlift out in the open air, open sun, and get his tan on at the same time as he was doing curls. So there's kind of like a setup like that here in Miami Beach. It's free, it's public access. So I go there and lift weights every day. And
So you live right
sometimes
by
I'll-
South Beach then?
yeah, I'm just 3 blocks away from Ocean Drive.
Okay. Yeah, I know exactly where you're at then. If you're going out on the beach and lifting and able to use that equipment, then I know I know right where you're at.
Yeah.
You're in that cool little area with all those 20s buildings that are like
Yeah, nice cafes
Art
and
Deco, all
restaurants
that
and
Art
everything.
Deco.
It's got a good vibe to it, definitely.
They've preserved that look really well. I think it comes down to like a lot of these Art Deco rules where, a lot of these historic buildings like the Colony and such, like you can't tear them down, you can't build above, and it's kept that sort of nostalgic look.
So where I'm at, it doesn't have the same degree, but it's different. This is a preserved neighborhood from the 20s, and all the houses are 100 years old. We bike everywhere. There's about 50 bars and restaurants right by here, and I was lucky. I was born in Jacksonville, Florida. I traveled around the world and lived in places like Amsterdam and Madrid and Berlin. And then when I got married and found the woman that I wanted to be with, I just came back here because everything that I love is here. It's amazing. And I really like Florida. I like Florida a lot, and I like historic neighborhoods in Florida. I feel like a historic neighborhood in Florida is what I call Florida inside out. Everyone's like, oh, I don't like Florida. I'm like, is it because of things you don't like about America that are more in Florida? Yeah, all that stuff. Urban sprawl and the crime. And I'm like, yeah, no. But then we got pockets where groups of people came together and said, we also don't like that stuff. And we live in Florida. And they have better communities. So these little communities are awesome.
I love it here. Yep. Florida's a great place to be. No state income tax.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good stuff about Florida.
That's right. Yeah. That's my top thing too, though. I frequently mention. I mean, no state tax and the weather. You combine those two factors, like awesome weather most of the time, and no state tax, and I don't know. It's hard to top unless you live in Montenegro.
I was on the phone with someone. John, I think you know who Jeremiah is, right? Who goes to Pamplona every year? Yeah. Yeah, tall guy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, super strong. We were joking about, because he doesn't live in Florida. He lives up in like the northeast region of the U.S. And I was like, yeah, would you ever consider moving to Florida?
I think he's up in New Hampshire or someplace like that, no?
Yeah. Just bought a place in New Hampshire. I was like, would you ever come to Florida? Like, would you ever relocate? He's like, I don't think I could ever see myself moving to a state where you have a season named after a natural disaster. Hurricane season. And I was like, I can't fault you there, because it is super spooky for anyone who lives outside of Florida. It's like, oh my gosh, you see the images of hurricanes and those who lived through Katrina. It can end up very, very bad.
Oh yeah. My wife is always like, did you check the generator? Did you do this? Did you do that? I was like, this thing isn't even going to hit us. Just give it a minute. They never go straight. She's like, the news said it's coming straight for us. I'm like, it's 5 days out. The one thing they never do 5 days out is go where they say they're going to go. That's the safest place to be, in the direct line. If you're right under it, it ain't coming.
Well, Jacksonville is a bit fortunate in the sense that it has that sort of curve there, which basically deflects all the hurricanes, and so they end up hitting Georgia or South Carolina or someplace like that.
That's right. This only applies in Jacksonville. I'm not suggesting this is a hurricane strategy anywhere else.
I grew
to be
up,
very clear.
In South Florida, they do have hurricanes, and they can be nasty.
We have another factor, which is that the St. Johns River flows north out of a delta. So we're already in this shape of a pocket. It's obviously not right side up, but we're already in a pocket like this. And then on top of that, you've got water flowing out this way all the time. And that water is warm. And because it's shallower water that's come up from the state. So we have constant warm water flowing out through a delta out of a pocket into the ocean from a river. The hurricanes are just naturally deflected. We also don't have as much of a problem with mosquitoes because we have some cold snaps every now and then.
Yeah, that's one thing I could do without, is just get rid of the mosquitoes, anything that bites you. Yeah, I'm not a fan. I had that growing up in Portland, Oregon, too. For whatever reason, there are just some people who they're attracted to, and I'm one of those.
Me too. They love me.
Hosts that they feed on.
Yeah, they love my blood. They see me coming, they're like, oh, we want to feed on that. I have no idea why. They think they're getting high. They're like, we know that guy. Last time we drank of him, we got high as hell.
Apparently, it's only the female mosquitoes that bite them.
That's right.
Did you know that?
Yeah. And they genetically modified a way to get rid of all of them a few years back, and they did it in Key West. And they didn't continue with it. You got to do it each year. But they just released some genetically modified ones that stop them from being able to reproduce. And it's the only time that everybody in all of science was all for genocide. Everyone was like, yeah, fucking wipe out the mosquito, that little malaria bandit. Nobody will care. And they did a bunch of studies and said that nothing needs it. Like, yeah, bats eat mosquitoes, but they'll eat other stuff too. Anything that eats mosquitoes got plenty of options.
My goodness.
They said nothing relies solely on mosquitoes. They're just a plague. And so, they said they would wipe them out, but I don't know where that went. That was like Tesla self-driving cars. I don't know where that action happened. It totally
Well, you think
worked,
of
but we
movies
just
like
don't get it.
Butterfly Effect. It's like if you change one little thing, butterfly flaps its wings, and I don't know.
Yeah,
John was never born.
that's right. And in my youth, I was
was never born.
appropriately real scared of like this butterfly effect.
What did
thing.
you have to do with that? Hi, Dad.
I feel like I was very
your
concerned
father.
about butterfly effects before I lived in the Cronenberg universe from Rick and Morty. Are you guys familiar with this reference at all?
Oh, yeah.
So, John, do you watch this show, Rick and Morty?
No,
Cartoon.
no.
Well, basically, they mess things up so bad they turn the universe into a Cronenberg world.
Ah, okay.
And so, long story short, yeah, I was concerned about the butterfly effect of things like wiping out a mosquito before I already felt like we Cronenberged up the world.
Man, yeah, it's tough times out there now. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, now we've got rampant man-made diseases, and I mean, it's a bunch of freaky stuff out there. Fortunately, I'm a man of faith, so I just go along for the ride, kind of like with the bulls.
That's right. So we were talking about hurricanes and disasters and right plagues and all this stuff. The other thing I would say is like a question that I get a lot too is if you run with the bulls, does that mean you're a daredevil? Do you go like skydiving and jump out of planes and I don't know, like rock climbing with no harnesses and stuff like that? The running of the bulls is literally the only risky endeavor I partake in, which might surprise a lot of people, right? I don't like going fast. I don't like I'm risk averse, as they say in the finance world, risk averse. But yeah, I just wanted to tie that in because I know people always think about that.
Yeah, that's a good thing to mention. I am absolutely not risk averse. I am attracted to risk and have no desire to run with
I mean,
the
I've
bulls.
met a lot of ex-military, from wars in Iraq and Afghanistan and everything, and they really take to the running of the bulls because, there's going to be that adrenaline, and that suits them,
I imagine there's a lot of different reasons that people may do it. I imagine they're quite diverse. You want to maybe tell us a little bit? I'm just imagining, but you can clarify my
Yeah,
that.
you're absolutely right. I think the next question is if you tell someone I only do the running of the bulls as far as risky stuff goes, I only do the bulls and nothing else. They might say, well, why is that? Well, for me, I feel like there's such profound meaning in running with the bulls and like being a part of this fraternity or this brotherhood of other runners that's been going on for generations and generations. That's meaningful to me. And then also, I think the backdrop of kind of like you said, you're a man of faith. I'm a man of faith as well. The backdrop of Saint Fermin and the homage to him and the respects that we're all paying to him, as a part of this festival, I think I derive a lot of meaning from that as well. I can't say that about rock climbing or skydiving or bungee jumping. Like, what meaning is there in that? Like, how many times in your life can you say that you're willing to risk death for something, right? And that there's a meaning behind it, right? Because like the ugly truth is that people have died running with bulls. I think the figure might be up to 10 to 12 people, right? It seems if you do the math, on average there might be 2 deaths every decade. I think the last one was maybe 2009, around there.
Yeah, something like that. Do you know Alan Josephs?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, he once told me that the encierro is basically a reenactment of the hunt, the Paleolithic hunt, and in fact you see it on the caves of Lascaux and Altamira. The aurochs, which is what the Spanish fighting bull is descended from. And so what we're doing, in a sense, is recreating the beginning of European art, and that this hunt is what inspired that, so to speak.
What's really fascinating about that is, right, because as soon as you start talking about the running of the bulls, people start to ask questions about the bullfight, right? And they start to kind of like think about those two either together or separate, because there's some people who like the bull run and some people who hate the bullfight. And of course, there are a lot of Spaniards and Basques who love both. And what you might, and if you ask someone who loves the bullfight why they love the bullfight, at some point or another, it'll come down to art. So like what John just said, it's like a very artistic experience for some, like the way the bull dies and the way it all goes down and happens. There's a very artistic flavor to that, but to an outsider who's just kind of viewing it from the lens of suffering, blood, chaos, they don't see that, right? But I mean, as John just alluded to, I mean, this thing goes back for hundreds of years. I mean, back to the days when hunter-gatherers threw spears at these things in the forests. There's a lot of history there.
Oh, John, this conversation for us began when John expanded my view of it. I was absolutely under that, I'd say, very simplified view. And I'm very pro-animal. I'm very much, I love animals.
Let's put it this way. The bulls, the Spanish fighting bulls, the ones descended through the Aurochs, would not exist without corrida. And corrida would not exist without the Spanish fighting bulls. So that's the way it is. I mean, they're raised for that. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I asked someone recently on the podcast, actually, the Moses podcast, and with that podcast, just to give another flavor there, I mean, I just sit down one-on-one with other bull runners and just kind of talk about how they got into it, what their experience was, and things that have happened. But I recently asked someone the question, could the running of the bulls exist without the bullfight? And one of the things that comes up is this idea of commerce, right? To do the running of the bulls, like in addition to not having to sign any sort of waivers or anything like that, you just go in, right? You don't buy any tickets to participate in the bull run. There's no fees. But what they do charge is to enter the bullfight.
Yeah.
So what drives these bulls to Pamplona in the first place is the fact that you have all this ticket revenue stemming from the bullfights. Sure, they participate in the bull run, but really the real event there is the bullfight. That's what drives the commerce. And so the question becomes, well, if you strip away all that ticket revenue, do the bull ranches still continue to produce these top quality Bravo bulls?
No, they wouldn't.
The answer is probably not, right? I mean, you might have some ranchers out there who just kind of do it for fun or as a hobby. I mean, but the meticulous way that they breed these animals for all of their attributes, whether it's like aggression, speed, strength, nobility, I mean, these ranches have been curating these breeds for hundreds of centuries. And like John just said, I don't know that continues without ticket revenue. Mm-hmm. And you might go to other towns across Spain. They're like, I think you said this earlier, towns across Spain, right? All across Spain, whether it's a 400-person town or a 20,000-person town, they have their own little events with bulls or even like young cows or calves. They might tie them up to a rope and just kind of have them go in circles. The kids can kind of have their fun and play. In some cases, they might shave the tips of the horns so that they don't have like massive gorings or traumas. But it's some of that stuff might continue on a small scale. But these animals you see in Pamplona, I think it gets lost in translation just how meticulously bred these animals have been.
Yeah, and what
happens to the animal after the? Sorry to interrupt, but the question's been burning.
What happens?
Yeah, what happens afterwards?
I can tell you.
He's butchered.
They get eaten.
Okay.
Yeah.
So effectively, we're talking about a process that's really just a deviation from what we got to do every day if you eat meat at all.
Well, most cows are killed with a sort of a automatic slug that goes into their head, and that kills them right there. But there's no art, there is no spectacle, there's no pathos, there's no tragedy. Think about it this way. These bulls, most of them are 4 years old, when they enter the ring. And for 4 years, they have done nothing but grow out on these huge farms or estancias, okay? And for the most part, no, usually 100%, they have never, been in contact with human beings, okay? However, some people are saying that because of the injuries to the runners, some of these bulls are actually being trained to run with the steers, okay? And this is not good for the Encierro. Now, I don't think that all of the ranches do this, but I think that maybe some of them have tried this, probably because the city hall in Pamplona would prefer not to have anyone getting injured, okay? But then it wouldn't be what it is.
Or maybe personal. Maybe they themselves would like to try to prevent injuries.
Well, I mean, politically, you've got people there who would rather do away with all of that sort of stuff, the bullfighting and everything else, okay? And then other people who say, no, 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 you know? So it's, if you have a rightist government, they'll be for tradition. If you have a leftist government, they're like, oh my God, we're doing this again, you know?
Oh, and we've already seen certain places in Spain outlaw or ban bullfights entirely.
Sure.
So, like in the province of Catalonia,
Yeah,
right,
it's
where
gone.
Barcelona is, you can't bullfight.
I think
It's
also in the
outlawed.
Canary Islands, too. Is that it? I'm not sure about that. But.
Oh, possibly. I know that in Portugal, for instance, I think you can do the bullfight. You just can't kill the bull.
Ah.
So there's some of that going on too. But to what you're saying is like, I'm sure the
You
town
could
hall
just
would.
antagonize it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then just like put it in the corral. I think the town hall of Pamplona, for instance, would love if no one got injured. And so I'll just back up real quick. So in every bull run, you have 6 of these Bravo bulls, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're not always black. Sometimes they're brown, beige, or different colors. But there are 6 of these. Then they release at the same time another 6 bulls that are like castrated bulls. They call them steers, and they're meant to just sort of guide these bulls up the street. And often, what we're seeing in recent years is the flock of 6 steers tends to just sort of like completely cover, overshadow the rest of those bulls as they're going towards the bull ring. They're super fast, I mean, super agile, and it's as a runner, you don't want to run in front of a steer. You want to run in front of a Bravo bull or a Brave bull. And I think if you look at the arguments against the running of the bulls, it comes down to like 2 things: cruelty to animals, and oh look, it's dangerous, people are dying and getting hurt. So I think the town hall probably sees it as, and I'm just spitballing here, but I think the town hall sees it as if we can take away one of those points of ammo, right? People get hurt, people get gored or died, then really there's just the animal stuff to deal with. Not to say it's small stuff, it's big stuff, but they just want to like make it as safe as they can for everyone to, I think, minimize the attention, the negative attention it might get. And who knows? Maybe next year, 5 people die, maybe 0 people die. Maybe next year you have 100 gorings or you have 0 gorings. You just don't know. It's an unpredictable event.
Yeah.
But they've done stuff like, for instance, we talked about the curve, which is this 90-degree angle, probably halfway through the run route. And what's interesting is they call it Dead Man's Corner, even though no one's ever died there. But aside from that, the curve. In recent years, they've sprayed down like an anti-slip residue.
Yeah, I noticed that.
On the coddles. Yeah, because if you look back at like the YouTube videos of the run back in like the late 90s or even like early 2000s, the bulls would be just hauling ass down the street, not see the turn coming up, slam up against the wooden barriers and kind of fall to the ground. It breaks apart the herd. You have situations with sueltos or lone bulls. And so I think the town hall said, all right, enough of this. They sprayed down the anti-slip residue, and now they're able to like keep their traction better and not fall to the ground or hit up against the barrier as much as they used to. So there have been little things like this, little precautions they've taken to make it more safe.
Yeah. For me, I got to say, for my part, I feel like the jury's out on 3 big subjects. This is one of them. The other 2 has to do with, eating meat in general. And then the third is getting your pets fixed. I've got pets. They're fixed. I don't have a better option. I don't think it's brilliant that I love somebody, I love something, this animal, and so I break it and call it getting it fixed. It's not really getting them fixed. It's that they were working just fine.
Well, I mean, we're as human beings, we're trying to sort of fix a lot of things, so to speak. That's sort of not the trans movement.
I mean, yeah, it's just I don't think, and I get asked this too. Is like, will they ever completely ban the running of the bulls? That's a tough one, because it is first of all, let's talk commerce, right? Things start and end with commerce.
Oh yeah.
The running of the bulls draws such huge crowds, and is such a
like in the first 2 days, how many people are running? Like 3,000 people or something like that.
Thousands, and it drives hotels.
And it's packed.
Yeah.
True, but with enough investment, they can maintain the commerce and change the structure. I.e., Halloween now is all about candy, and that never was what it was.
Yeah, but running with the bulls is not about candy. It's not sweet per se. it's adrenaline.
Right.
It's testosterone, because most of the runners are men. Let's be honest about that. It's something that
I
men.
can't imagine a very feminine woman would be like in general. I'm not being sexist, I hope, but I don't. That's not what I imagine. Barbie going. I just can't wait to run with the bulls. I never saw running
number.
with the bulls Barbie.
Small number. There are a few Spaniards out there.
Well, those are the
Spanish women.
Well, that's why you're single. You got a small target to hit, huh? You got to find one of these girls who can run with the bulls.
That's right. We'll run together. But I don't think.
Or it could just be a question of damaged goods. I mean, do you want a woman who's been running with the bulls? I mean, she's had her arm, shoulder dislocated, or she had that goring right here next to her liver or something.
Imagine the arguments. Remember when you pushed me out of I did not push you. I would never push you. Yeah, we were running on Dead Man's Corner.
No, I will say this, and I'm sure, I don't know, John, I'd be curious to ask you this. Have you ever gotten flack for your grandfather popularizing the fiesta in a negative way?
This is interesting because just yesterday I did an interview with these three college students, two girls and one guy, who were talking about the Plaza Castillo, okay? And, I mentioned the fact that, I met Christina there, all that sort of jazz. And they were very nice and friendly and everything. Now, other people have said, oh, yeah, your grandfather ruined it for the rest of us, that sort of thing. My grandfather probably made them rich.
Well, that's the thing. And that's one of the reasons maybe this doesn't go away so
What
easily.
is it? Like a third of their budget is garnered in, 8 days, 9 days, okay? It's just insane, because towards the end of it, then there's Bastille Day, and all the French come over the border, and it starts up again for a day or two, that is. No, for a day, basically.
It would hurt the pockets of those who stand to gain so much from this continuing, but I think more important than that, obviously, and from my perspective, I'm a bit biased, I think there is such a strong passion around the event that I just don't think this goes away so easily. But who knows? With time, anything can happen. But yeah, I always think about that. What would the fiesta look like? What would Pamplona look like, without any tourists, no foreigners? I mean, what would any place look like, right? Like, I don't know. What would New York look like?
It would look like Jacksonville. I can answer that.
There's nothing to see here.
See?
Like the police say, nothing to see here. Keep moving.
Yeah, that's right.
Go down to Miami.
We're literally a historic district with a bunch of bars and a bunch of restaurants, and they don't even allow outside places in. So, like, big chains and groups are not allowed here. So it's all local
in his
places.
neck of the woods, okay?
Yeah, just in this little area, just right here.
Where we have the white folk, okay? Who can afford the beach houses and everything like that, or maybe they're transplanted New Yorkers or something like that. Yeah. A lot of those these days.
They didn't get whoever they are. They didn't get a job in Jacksonville. I can guarantee you that. They got the money came from somewhere else.
I know they're into finance, like Ander is and everything. Yeah. They bring their millions, like Ander brought his millions to Miami Beach. And
then you just buy these. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, it's a unique place, Jacksonville. It's very unique. I feel like it's kept purposefully under wraps and purposefully small, so that you always have. I think the people who did it. I think the DuPonts and the Duvals and I don't know. I mean, I'm just guessing about this from history, not from like anything I know. I'm not claiming some conspiracy or anything.
The best thing about Jacksonville is that it's 30 minutes away from anywhere else. If you want to go someplace, you got to get in your car and drive for half an hour.
There's a lot of public transportation.
I solved that problem by taking a bike. It's so funny when
No, there's zero. They just have buses and.
It's horrible. I just take that's why people in Riverside often don't really leave. Like the neighborhood I'm in, we just don't leave. I frequently tell people when like somebody will be like, they want something on the Facebook Marketplace or something, and they're like, "Can you meet me over here?" I'm like, "No, I can meet you in this like tiny little area." And I'm like, because I'm only on a bicycle. I only ride a bike. And then they'll sometimes get to wherever I'm at. And I'm like, my garage looks, like GTA Grand Theft. And I'm like, yeah, no, those are for long trips. I'm not getting in the car to go somewhere. Like,
I hear you. No, what I love about South Beach, just Miami in general, maybe more so in South Beach, I can just walk around.
Yeah.
For whatever I need to do. Like I can go to the grocery store.
Yeah, well, South Beach is like that. It's cool. Yeah. Or
It's very welcome.
like Coconut Grove, that's another place in Miami. And then going further down, of course, you've got Key West. That's
Yeah.
a bit of a trip.
What's nice is they just built out, I think it already started operating. The Bright Line train now goes from, it's a high-speed train, goes from Miami all the way up to West Palm Beach, then all the way up to Orlando.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So I'm not sure what it costs. It might be bougie or it might be super expensive, but I think that was a big deal because I think people want to live in places like Orlando or West Palm Beach who might have to actually commute to work in Miami. So now it's kind of all connected.
Now,
But
as far as hurricanes go, if they were to go back to making houses the way they were when I was growing up in the 60s, which were basically, cinder blocks, that sort of thing, very sort of one-story, small windows, okay, steel, roof, okay, so it doesn't go flying off.
You're really selling these houses, huh?
Yeah.
You're flying off the shelves, it sounds like.
Yeah, no, because a lot of people build these sort of, beautiful sort of, McMansions and everything else like that. And I think that is just what a hurricane is looking for, man.
Oh, yeah.
oh yeah,
With the pressure difference and everything, it's just going to go.
Well, that's what blew out our insurance. That's why we can't get proper insurance
That's it.
anymore
I was
because
just going to say that.
Because
Yeah.
they don't make the houses the way they used to. That's a Florida
because
house.
that's the next thing. They don't care. They're just
I
going to
live-
let it get damaged, and
I
they're going
live
to
in
get a bunch
small
of insurance
apartment
money.
up
They're
near
going to do the
beach,
same thing again.
And when my cousin was there, when I had to go to Mexico, she was staying with Chris for a bit, and she said, "Oh, this is so old Florida." And basically it was just like that: small rooms, small windows.
That's what I have, by the way. I have a one-story brick house. I bought a brick house because I didn't want to paint it. And it's been
I
doing
like
the
it.
same thing
I
for
like it.
100 years. And I don't even have a lawn. I built
That's
a deck
awesome.
over the entire lawn.
He went green,
Yeah.
and
You went
gray.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. I went
Concrete
I went
gray.
brown. I went brown. Just put
Brown,
wood
brown.
And I
everywhere.
bet you save so much time, money, and effort from not having like a landscaped lawn every week.
I go on vacation for months. I just let a friend stay here or something. I just go, and it doesn't even matter. And they don't even have to. I don't even have to arrange for lawn care or anything. It's just beautiful. I love it. It makes life so. I was all about zero maintenance. I have traveled the world out of one bag. I don't need much of anything to get by. I don't need much, and I love being free and feeling like I can do anything in the moment. And so,
But that takes away a lot of the sort of what I would say the joy of childhood growing up in Florida, where we would see water moccasins and then run to get what was it, a limestone or something like that, and we'd throw it at the snake and everything a zillion times until it was dead. Or you
or
just
didn't it usually just get away?
you
though?
see
'Cause
black
throwing stones
widows
at snakes is like,
and you see what are those things called? Not the tarantulas, but
Nobody's getting
scorpions.
excited about visiting
Scorpions.
Florida
Okay.
now.
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, right. Yeah,
Well, that was the old Florida. Okay.
VisitFlorida.com was like, maybe we'll sponsor these guys, and they're like, what? No, never mind. Roll that back.
Now Florida is the Wild West. I mean,
It is.
for sure.
No, I love it. I love it for that. I love it for its unabashed freedom. I do feel like
Special announcement.
but it's just
Okay.
in the woods. There's no
I don't
freedom
know.
in a public street.
It's just
It's
being
just-
heard. Okay. If anyone wants to see me doing what I normally do, which is promoting my books, I'll be at the Marjorie Kinnan Rawlings house this Saturday at about 1:30 in the afternoon. So if you want to show up, and bring cash, okay, to buy one of the three, books that I've written so far. Oh, no.
We've got
Do they get to touch you as part of this experience?
Yeah, they can touch
Can
me.
they touch you?
They can, give me un abrazo, besos, all that sort of stuff.
this is John's most recent book for the folks here at home, Murder on the Florida Straits. And we've also been talking with Ander, whose book is The Basque.
Buy
there you go.
Anders' book right
That's
now.
right. These are
I appreciate
this is
that.
the set.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah,
That
anytime.
shout out.
Anytime. Hopefully soon we'll be more popular, and people will go back and they'll see this episode and be like, "Wow, in the punk rock days, when those guys were."
And then you'll see that every time this is played or something like that, your sales just go whoosh,
Yeah,
like
the
that.
books will just fly off the shelves.
Yeah.
Isn't that an interesting concept? Like this will get recorded, saved down, and stored somewhere, and then 2 years down the road, maybe long after the podcast, long after you guys have made your riches and moved on, someone stumbles upon it. It's like, you know what? Like, I want to run with the bulls, or I want to write a book, or I want to know more about John or Bill. And they can click on it and tune in like it was just today.
I do think that's really great. When I first came online many years ago, it was about 2000 for me. I mean, I was online before. I was online in the days of dial-up, but I wouldn't say I had a...
Oh, you did that too? You know?
Yeah. I had a Commodore 64 and an Amiga with a phone in the cradle, but I mean, I wouldn't consider myself having really... I didn't have a permanent online presence. When I really kind of, I'd say, started doing techie stuff heavily was 2000. And and I had the same phrase on every social platform that was ever created when they came out. And it was, I am a person using a machine to talk to you. And because I wanted to have this wonderful experience of communicating with a lot of people without distance, without, to be able to keep logs, to keep records of it, to be able to go back and look at how things change. I felt that there was such amazing potential as an expansion of the Gutenberg galaxy that we now live in, that it would go further in this capacity. And I was young and a little naive and didn't realize that there's pendulums that swing in many directions. And brilliant things often take a long time and have some really dumb chapters in between. And that makes it fun.
Sure. That makes it fun. That's right. You got to start somewhere, and it's cool to see the evolution in some respects.
Yeah. So maybe we'll have another podcast and talk about that, because I know you know a lot about that subject, and maybe I think it's also one that people might like to hear a unique perspective on.
Which subject is this?
Making podcasts, communicating online,
right, yeah, sure.
And the, let's say, various approaches. We kind of are choosing a very punk rock approach. This is just us. We're turning on the camera.
I dig it.
I hope it sounds okay. Does it sound okay to you?
It sounds fantastic, and I feel, looking at your backdrop there, the setting, it feels like I'm hanging out with you, which I think anyone watching is going to feel the same way.
Awesome, thanks. That's kind of what we're going for. This is us. We sit here sometimes and chat and talk, and we thought we need to broadcast this. Let's have some conversations with some great people.
And I said,
I do have
let's get Ander in on this.
Yeah, sure. Sure, what's up?
I'm sure that this question's burning in the minds of everyone watching. Is there any booze in that refrigerator on your list?
There is. Yes, there is. Unfortunately, in order to get this in front of here, I blocked the door a little bit, but I can get in there. And but there is not booze in here. These are repurposed for water bottles, so I can just grab a quick drink out of something that...
It's got that Jack's smell, Jack's water is really weird. Everyone knows it.
Got that moonshine going there.
Yeah.
It's almost kind of like a smoked flavor.
This refrigerator has more weed than booze in it, though. I have a medical marijuana card, and I keep plenty of accoutrement on hand.
Oh, fantastic! My goodness, you are prepared. This is more than a hangout. This is a.
This could be a reason for you to drive on up here.
That's right. And we've got plenty of varieties of live resin. Generally, this is usually what I'm smoking, something a little like that.
Do you get that from trees or something?
Kind of marijuana trees, yeah.
Marijuana trees.
Yeah, the female ones.
Would you say that smoking marijuana or even like eating edibles is as prolific as a place like California? Like Florida compared to California? Probably.
I honestly, and I've traveled around since this, I feel like we dominate the weed smoking right here in Riverside. Specifically, the neighborhood I'm in is unreal. We have the
Not surprising, because, Florida dominates a lot of things, but we just don't really sort of, go around boasting it like they do in California, where nothing worked. You were there for a while, and then you came back.
I was there for a while.
Yeah, you saw the light, yeah.
You can't go to Venice Beach without being bum rushed by, like, green doctors or whatever they're called.
Yeah. So I can't knock L.A. Now, I think L.A. is probably similar if you're talking about the woods and places like this where, like, Woody Harrelson and Snoop Dogg have their coffee shops where they're literally hanging out smoking with patrons. We're second to that for sure. So I wouldn't say we're number one. But Riverside, you can't walk down the street. I'm regularly driving the car. And in the car, driving regularly, you'll smell weed. And
Really?
I don't drive a car regularly, but when I do drive a car, I smell weed from other cars all the time.
It would be amazing for a policeman to actually stop you here.
I was
The
stopped
way
while
people
smoking
drive
weed.
in the freeway around here is,
They don't
they don't care. I mean, everyone's going as fast as they can. They've all got trucks or huge.
It's like the 95 here in South Florida. It's
Yeah.
just-
Oh
Yeah.
God.
Something's
Yeah.
gonna happen.
Another thing I love about Florida, I got pulled over. I had this in my mouth. I was like, and I was trying to pass this truck. And admittedly, it was because of an evasive maneuver, but I hit over 100 on the on-ramp. And I got pulled over, vape pen in mouth, triple digits on the on-ramp. The cop hit the lights, and I immediately pulled over and was like, oh, shit. And of course, I set it down, and I rolled the windows down. And the cop just wanted to talk about the car. We talked about the car, and he gave me a warning.
Wow. You got off.
Yeah, totally.
It's the
My
Mercedes.
goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just wanted to know what kind of car did that. And I was like, yeah, it's a modified Mercedes. It's fast as all get out.
Triple digits with the vape pen.
Yeah.
That's
Legendary.
what's important here. How fast does your car go? Last night, Halloween, I could see them down Atlantic Boulevard, with their little sort of lights on their tires and everything,
Oh, I hit a
All
buck
lights
50
going.
on I-10 when the road's nice and clear and there's not cars in the way. I'll hold about 150 on average.
Goodness. Kids, don't do any of this stuff.
But the car's made for it. I
But
will
run with the
say.
bulls when you're of age.
Yeah, that's right. But so that's why I say I'm not very risk averse, but the car's built for it. That's the thing
Oh, for sure.
it's totally different doing it in a car that is not designed to do 200 miles an hour.
Goodness. Wow. We covered a lot.
Yeah.
We covered a lot in this little chat here.
Yeah, we
Gotta
did.
hang out more often.
I'd like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, I'd like that. Yeah, we'll do it again. We'll have so I'm working on some multi-stream software. Right now, I just have this set up for when I play games. So I'll rebroadcast it and put it up on YouTube and everything else. But I just made all those channels. So
Fantastic.
so the website, we'll talk about today, finalize maybe some graphics. We don't even have our logo finalized yet. We'll talk about that after and get that. And then I'll put this as the initial interview on everything. And
Oh, great.
when you want to hang out with us again, let us know. We'll do another one.
Of course, it'd be awesome. Thank you so much for the invite. It's been a pleasure to sit down and get to know both of you a little bit more. Hear some good things or bad things about John, and whatever. I'm just kidding, John. I love you.
See how many of these I can get through without getting arrested.
It's been awesome, guys. Thank you again. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
same thing, Ander. Great to see you.
Hasta luego.
Nice to meet you.
Hasta
Thank you so
luego.
much. Hasta luego.
See you.
All right.
Oh,
Hope you
number
like the
one.
stream. That's at number one. We'll chat with you later. Tell us what you like, what you don't. Peace out.